I never thought a single slap could echo louder than a gunshot. But when my son Caleb's palm cracked across my face that Thanksgiving night, it shattered more than bone. It splintered the fragile lie I'd built our lives on. Blood trickled warm from my split lip, tasting like copper and regret, as 20 pairs of eyes at the crowded table in our Boise ranch house stared in collective horror. "You're a liar and a thief," he snarled, his voice slicing through the stunned silence like a chainsaw through pine. "And I hope you rot for what you did to Dad." That was 10 years ago. The night he turned his back on me forever, or so I believed. I'd raised him alone after his father vanished into the Idaho wilderness like a bad debt, taking our savings and leaving me to shoulder the blame for his sins. But Caleb didn't know the half of it. No one did. I'd confessed to the embezzlement at the lumber mill, pled guilty to the felony theft that should have been Mark's cross to bear, all to keep the wolves from our door and my boy from growing up in foster care. Mark had gambled it all away on poker nights in Twin Falls, then framed me in his coward's exit, whispering to the sheriff that I'd cooked the books. I'd taken the fall because loving a man like that meant loving his shadows too. And Caleb was the one light I couldn't let extinguish. Prison was 3 years of gray walls and colder regrets. Paroled early for good behavior. Emerging into a world that had moved on without me. I rebuilt in scraps, waitressing doubles at the local diner, scraping tuition for Caleb's community college dreams until he turned 18, and that rage boiled over. The slap wasn't just betrayal, it was the universe's cruel joke. My own flesh turning on me for crimes that weren't mine. I didn't chase him when he peeled out in his beat-up Ford, tires spitting gravel like accusations. Instead, I wiped the blood, forced a smile for the aunts and uncles murmuring condolences disguised as judgments, and buried the secret deeper. Revenge? Back then, it tasted like ash. But time has a way of sharpening dull blades, and when Mom passed last spring, her heart giving out in that same Boise house, the one she'd deeded to me after Dad's stroke, I felt it stir. Not hot fury, but a cold, calculated unraveling. Caleb showing up at her funeral? That was the spark. Demanding his share like some prodigal heir? That was the inferno. The days blurred after the slap into a numb routine of survival. I remember the drive to the women's correctional in Nampa, the iron gates clanging shut like a period at the end of my old life. Inside, the air smelled of bleach and broken dreams, bunks stacked like cordwood. My cellmate, Rita, a tough broad from Spokane who'd knifed her cheating husband, not fatally, thank God, became my confessor. "Why'd you do it?" "Annie." She'd rasp over contraband smokes smuggled in laundry. I'd stare at the bars, tracing the rust patterns like maps to nowhere, and whisper the half-truth. "For my boy. Always for my boy." She nodded, understanding the currency of maternal lies better than most. Rita got out first, sent me postcards from her sister's trailer in Reno, pictures of her niece's first steps, scrawled notes saying, "Don't let the bastards grind you." I kept them folded in my mattress, talismans against the nights when Mark's ghost haunted me, his laugh echoing from those final arguments where he'd gaslight me into believing I deserved the ruin. Parole came on a crisp October morning in 2016, the world outside exploding in fall colors that mocked my pallor. Boise hadn't changed much. The Boise River still wound lazy through downtown. Hipsters sipping IPAs at the Basque Block. But the stares followed me like stray dogs. "That's Annabelle Hale, the mill thief," they'd mutter in the grocery line at Albertsons, clutching their carts like shields. I rented a studio above a laundromat on Fairview Avenue. The hum of dryers a lullaby for my insomnia. The job at Hazel's Diner was a godsend, greasy spoons, and bottomless coffee. Where truckers tipped in quarters and forgot your face by the next plate of hash browns. I dyed my hair chestnut to hide the gray. Got a tattoo of a raven on my wrist as a reminder. Birds fly free, even with clipped wings. Caleb? He ghosted harder than his father. A single text 6 months post-slap. Don't contact me. Ever. I respected it. Or tried to. Pouring my ghosts into letters I never sent. I wrote about the first snowfall dusting the sawtooths. How it reminded me of building forts in the backyard when he was 7. His mittens caked in mud as he declared himself king of the hill. I wrote about the ache of holidays alone. Thanksgiving turkeys for one that I donated to the shelter before they went bad. But mostly, I wrote about Mark, not the monster he'd become, but the boy I'd met at a Boise State tailgate in '92, his flannel shirt untucked, eyes blue as the Idaho sky, promising forever over cheap beer and Boise Bombers hot dogs. We'd married young. Him chasing foreman dreams at the mill. Me clerking ledgers that he later said I fudged. The truth? He'd skimmed payroll for years. Feeding a habit that started with lotto tickets and escalated to underground fights in Caldwell barns. When the auditors came, he bolted, leaving a forged confession in my desk drawer, dated in my handwriting, meticulous forgery from a man who'd watched me sign checks 1,000 times. I hired a PI on credit once, a grizzled vet named Lou from the VFW bar, to track Mark. He's in Reno, Lou grunted over black coffee, sliding grainy photos across the Formica. Mark? Heavier now. Arm around a bleach blonde in a casino parking lot. No kids. No remorse, just a ghost living large on blood money. I burned the pics in a coffee can on my fire escape, the flames dancing like the vengeance I swore off. Or so I told myself. Deep down, the plan simmered. Not murder. Nothing so crude. But exposure. Let the world see the man who'd sold his soul and mine for a royal flush. But life had other debts. Mom's cancer diagnosis hit like a freight train in 2020. Her voice crackling over the phone from the assisted living in Meridian. Annie. Honey. It's stage 4. Come home. I did. Folding my shifts to weekends, driving the I-84 corridor with audiobooks of true crime to drown the what-ifs. Mom and I mended fences in her sunflower-walled room, her frail hand in mine as she confessed her own buried sins, Dad's affairs, the money she'd hidden from Social Security to keep the house. We all carry weights. Baby girl, she'd wheeze, morphine-dulled eyes twinkling. But yours. Caleb don't know. Does he? I shook my head, throat tight. And he won't. Not from me. She passed peacefully on a Tuesday in April 2025. The cherry blossoms outside her window shedding pink petals, like confetti for the gone. The funeral was small. Methodist church on Main Street. Potluck casseroles in the basement where we'd held Caleb's baptism picnic decades back. I handled the arrangements with mechanical precision. Obituary in the Idaho Statesman. Mahogany casket from the discount parlor. A playlist of Patsy Cline for the graveside. Grief was a familiar coat. Threadbare but warm. Until the text from an unknown number the night before the service. Heard about Graham.
Be there tomorrow.
We need to talk inheritance.
C.
My stomach dropped like a stone in the Payette River.
Caleb.
After a decade of radio silence. Crashing mom send-off like a bill collector at a wake. Inheritance? Mom's will was ironclad. The house to me. Her only daughter. With a modest trust for Caleb if he ever surfaced. $50K from her teaching pension. Earmarked for my grandson's fresh start. but share implied more, a presumption that curdled my blood. I paced the empty house that night, floorboards creaking under bare feet, the slap's phantom sting resurfacing.
Why now?
What scheme had pulled him from whatever hole he'd crawled into? Reno. Maybe. Following Dad's trail. Or worse, had he found out about the mill? Pieced together the lie? The raven tattoo itched as I Googled him on my ancient laptop. Sparse LinkedIn for a sales gig in Salt Lake. A Facebook profile locked tighter than Fort Knox. No wife. No kids, just echoes. Dawn broke gray and drizzly. The kind of Idaho spring that soaks your soul. I dressed in black wool from the thrift store. Pearl's mom had worn to her own mother's service. And drove to the church with Janis Joplin crooning me and Bobby McGee on the radio. Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. The parking lot held a dozen cars. Aunts from Emmett. Cousins with potluck Tupperware. Pastor Hale, no relation, in his sensible sedan.
Inside.
The pews smelled of lemon polish and lilies. Mom's casket open at the altar. Her face powdered serene under bifocals folded on the satin pillow. I took my seat in the front row, flanked by empty space where Caleb should have been since he was 5. His small hand in mine during Dad's burial. The service dragged. Hymns off-key. Eulogies laced with "she was a pillar" platitudes. My mind wandered to the reading from Ecclesiastes, a time for everything. A season for vengeance under heaven. Fitting. As the side door creaked open mid-sermon. Heads turning like dominoes. There he was, Caleb Hale. 30 now. Broader in the shoulders. Hair, cropped military short. A 5 o'clock shadow sharpening his jaw. He wore a charcoal suit off the rack. Tie askew. Carrying a manila envelope like a briefcase nuke. Our eyes met across the aisle, mine pleading. His flint hard, and for a split second, I saw the boy who'd built Lego empires on the kitchen table, dreaming of engineering bridges that wouldn't fall. He slid into the pew beside Aunt Lydia, who stiffened like she'd sat on a tack. Whispers rippled. Is that? After all this time? Pastor Hale faltered, then powered through the Lord's Prayer. At the grave site, under a canopy tent flapping in the wind, the real storm brewed. Soil from the Payette Valley clung to our shoes as we lowered Mom into the earth. Her plot beside Dad's under a modest granite marker. Eleanor Jane Whitmore. Beloved mother. 1948 to 2025. I tossed the first rose. Thorns pricking my thumb. A bead of blood welling like accusation. That's when Caleb cornered me by the wrought iron fence. The crowd milling toward the fellowship hall for Jell-O salads and awkward hugs. Mom, he said, the word flat as day-old soda. Up close. He smelled of cheap cologne and stale cigarettes. Eyes bloodshot from a red-eye flight, or something stronger. We need to talk.
Now.
Here, I glanced at the diggers tamping earth. The hearse idling like a getaway car. At your grandmother's grave? Perfect spot, he snapped, shoving the envelope into my hands. Read it. Then tell me why I shouldn't sue for everything. My fingers trembled as I tore it open. Yellowed news clippings from 2015. Headlines screaming, mill manager's wife sentenced in $200,000 theft scandal. My mugshot stared back, hollow-cheeked and defiant.
Then,
a private investigator's report, dated last month, grainy surveillance of Mark in a Reno strip club, timestamps matching wire transfers to an offshore account. And buried deepest, a notarized affidavit from Lou, my old PI, Mark Hale coerced confession, Annabelle innocent. You hired someone, I breathed, heart hammering like a jackrabbit. Caleb.
This
changes. Changes nothing, he hissed. Voice low thunder. You let me believe you were the villain. I hated you for 10 years. Dropped out of school. Bounced jobs. All because I thought my own mother stole our life. And Dad vanished because of you. Or so I thought. His lip curled. That same sneer from the slap. But now I know. He ran because he was guilty. And you covered for him.
Why?
Some twisted love. You sacrificed us both. The wind whipped my skirt, carrying distant laughter from the hall. Life mocking the dead. I did it for you, I said, voice cracking. If I'd pointed at him, the cops would have dragged him back. Trial dragging us through hell. Foster care for you. Headlines forever. I took the hit, so you could have a shot at normal. Normal. He laughed. Bitter as wormwood. I got shipped to Uncle Ray's in Pocatello. Beatings when the beer flowed. Joined the army at 18 to escape. Shipped to Kandahar where normal means IEDs and buddies in body bags. All because you played martyr. Uncle Ray, Mark's brother. A mean drunk who'd always eyed me wrong. I'd begged social services to skip him. But paperwork vanished like Mark's conscience. Guilt twisted fresh. I tried to fight it. Letters. Appeals. Save it. He stepped closer. Breath hot on my face. Graham's will. I want my share. The house. The trust, everything. Consider it restitution for the decade you stole from me. The house, Mom's bungalow. Paid off with her sweat. Now my anchor in a sea of what-ifs. It's not that simple. The will. Enforce it or I go public.
He tapped the envelope.
Reno Gazette loves a redemption arc. Wronged son exposes family fraud. You'll be the punchline again.
Mom.
The liar who lied to lie. Rage flickered. Not the slap's heat, but a surgeon's scalpel. This wasn't the boy I'd lost. This was a man forged in fire. Scheming like his father. But beneath the bluster, hurt flickered, the same boy who'd cried when his goldfish floated belly up. You came back for money, I said softly. Not me. Not her.
His jaw tightened.
Blood's thicker than greed. But lies? They thin it out. He turned toward the hall, pausing. Sign the papers by week's end. Or the truth goes viral. He vanished into the crowd, leaving me clutching thorns and clippings, the grave fresh dug at my feet. Vengeance. I'd thought dormant, uncoiled like a rattler in the sagebrush. Not against Caleb, not yet. But Mark, the puppeteer who'd strung us all, his time was up. I'd start in Reno, drag his skeletons into the light. But as the first shovelful hit the casket, a darker whisper, what if Caleb's bluff hid his own sins? What if the son I'd avenge was beyond saving? The drive back from the cemetery was a blur of windshield wipers slapping rhythm and the radio droning NPR on the opioid crisis in Appalachia. Ironic. As my own addiction clawed, the need to fix what I'd broken. I pulled into the driveway of Mom's house, our house now, the craftsman with its sagging porch and climbing ivy that she'd battled yearly with Roundup and resentment. Inside, the air hung heavy with her absence, Afghans draped over the couch, her Bible open to Psalms on the side table, underlined in faded blue ink. I poured a tumbler of her wild turkey, neat, and sank into the rocker by the window, clippings spread like a poker hand I was about to fold. Caleb's report was thorough, damning in its clarity. Lou had dug deep, bank records showing Mark's siphon starting in 2010, cross-referenced with casino CCTV from the Silver Legacy. There was even an interview transcript with Rita, my cellmate, who'd overheard me sobbing the full story one lockdown night. Annabelle's no crook, she'd told Lou. She's a mama bear who ate the bullet for her cub. But the kicker? A recent transfer, $20,000 from Mark's account to Caleb's. Time-stamped 2 weeks ago. Reno to a Wells Fargo in Salt Lake. Bait? Blackmail seed? My boy. Entangled in his father's web. I fired up the laptop, fingers flying to public records. Caleb's Army discharge. Honorable. But with a psych eval flagged for adjustment disorder. Code for the ghosts of war. His job at that Salt Lake auto dealership? Glassdoor reviews screamed cutthroat, complaints of shady deals on lemon F-150s. And buried in a 2023 Utah court filing, a dismissed assault charge. Victim a coworker who tripped. Pieces clicked like a .38 revolver. The slap wasn't impulse, it was prelude. He'd learned fragments over the years, nursed them into a grudge that mirrored Mark's manipulations. Uncle Ray's beatings had twisted him, but whose hand guided the knife? By midnight, the plan crystallized, not rash, but relentless, American as apple pie and arsenic. Step 1, Reno. I'd cash out Mom's life insurance, $30,000. Enough for gas and a motel. Drive the 520 miles west on I-80, the desert flats mirroring my resolve. Confront Mark. Record every weasel word. Then leak it to the statesman. Expose the architect. Free the blueprint. But Caleb? He'd get his reckoning too. Not destruction, but truth's mirror. Force him to see the man he'd become. Chasing shadows of a father who'd sold his soul for chips. Sleep evaded. Chased by dreams of the slap in slow motion. Caleb's hand arcing. My head snapping. The family gasp stretching eternal. I woke sweat-soaked at 4 a.m. The house creaking like bones settling. A coffee brewed black as sin. I packed a go bag, jeans, the raven tattoo peeking from my sleeve. Mom's pearl-handled .22 from the nightstand drawer, unloaded.
For now.
A text to my boss at the diner. Family emergency. Back soon. Lies beget lies.
But this one bought time.
The road to Reno unspooled under sodium lamps fading to dawn. Sagebrush blurring past as Merle Haggard twanged from the speakers. Mama tried.
Fitting.
Mom had tried. Shielding me from Dad's rages with bedtime stories of pioneer women who'd tamed the wild. I'd failed that legacy. But redemption's a Tulane blacktop. Plenty of room to swerve. Crossing into Nevada. The air thickened with casino promise. Billboards hawking slots and sin. I checked into the Nugget. A dive off Virginia Street. Room smelling of Lysol and lost weekends. $89 a night. Cash only, ghosts prefer anonymity. Lou's intel led to a trailer park on the outskirts. Sierra Sage Mobile Estates. Where dreams went to rust. Mark's unit was 47B. A double-wide with a sagging carport sheltering a '98 Chevy that looked like it had lost a mud wrestle. I parked 2 lots over. Heart thumping a tattoo against my ribs. The .22 heavy in my purse like unspoken regret. Dusk fell purple as I approached. Gravel crunching under sneakers. The envelope from the funeral tucked in my jacket. He answered on the 3rd knock. Door chain rattling like loose change. Mark Hale. 58 going on ancient. Paunch straining a faded Raiders tee. Hair thin to wisps. Eyes squinting against the porch light. Annie? Shock widened his face. Then suspicion narrowed it. The hell you doing here? Closure, I said. Voice steady as the Sierra Nevada silhouette. Or reckoning. Your pick. He unchained, gesturing me in with a grunt. Inside was a bachelor's apocalypse. Pizza boxes stacked like Jenga. Flat screen blaring Fox News on mute. A half-empty Coors sweating on the laminate counter. His lady friend, the blonde from the photos, lounged on the sectional. Acrylic nails scrolling her phone, barely glancing up. "This the ex," she drawled, accent thick as gumbo. "Out," Mark barked, and she slinked off with a hip sway and a backward glare. Alone, he faced me, arms crossed like a bouncer. "Caleb send you? That boy finally wise up? Wiser than you deserve." I slapped the clippings on the coffee table, the thud echoing. 10 years.
Mark.
I did your time. Raised our son on scraps.
And you?
Partying in paradise while he joined the army to forget us. He sank into a lazy boy, rubbing his neck. It was business.
Babe.
Mill was going under. I borrowed to save jobs.
Lie.
Smooth as ever. Borrowed? You stole. And framed me. I pulled my phone, hitting record discreetly. Admit it. For Caleb. He knows now, hired a PI. Saw the transfers. Including the one to him last month. Mark's face blanched, then darkened. That little shit. I sent it as a loan. A hook. I leaned in, voice venom soft. Reel him into your game. But he's done dancing. And so are you. He laughed. A wheeze like punctured lungs. What? You gonna tattle? Statutes run. We're square. Not for me. I stood, pocketing the phone, his confessions captured in tinny audio. This goes to the DA, the press. Your Reno fantasy ends. Pay back every cent, or watch your name in lights as the deadbeat who broke a family. Panic flickered. Then calculation, the schemer surfacing.
Wait.
We could. Split it. Caleb don't need to know the details. Family sticks. Right? Family? I spat the word. You killed ours the day you ran. He lunged then, not violent but desperate, grabbing my wrist over the raven ink. Please, Annie.
I got debts.
The fights, they own me. One more score, and we're golden. The touch ignited memory, his hands once gentle, now claws. I wrenched free, .22 appearing like judgment. Back off. This is loaded with truth.
Mark.
One call, and it's over. He deflated, slumping.
Fine.
Wires tomorrow. $150,000, the original plus interest. Just. Don't tell the boy. He thinks I'm a hero.
Hero.
The word hung. Absurd. I nodded, holstering the gun, and left him there, trailer lights spilling onto the lot like spilled milk. Victory tasted flat, though hollow as the desert wind. Back in the Nugget, I emailed the audio to a statesman contact from my waitressing days. Anonymous tip, lumber mill scandal sequel. Then, a text to Caleb, found Dad. He's wiring your share. But read the attachment first. The PI report, unredacted. His reply buzzed at 2 a.m. WTF, Mom? This changes everything. Meet me in Boise. Tomorrow. The drive back was lighter, pockets heavier with impending wire, but unease nod. Caleb's tone eager, almost hungry. What if the money wasn't absolution, but accelerant? By Elko. My phone lit with alerts. Statesman teaser online. Exclusive. Fugitive embezzler confesses. Mark's face. Blurred but unmistakable.
Good.
Let the chips fall. Boise welcomed with rain-slick streets. The house dark as I pulled up. Caleb's rental, a silver Accord from Enterprise, sat curbside. Headlights off. Inside. He waited in the kitchen. Envelope open on the table. My .22 beside it, unloaded. But ominous. You brought a gun to Reno, he said. No hello. Eyes gleaming fever-bright. Insurance. I poured coffee. Hands steady. It's done. Your father's paying. We start over. He laughed.
Sharp.
Start over? With blood money. He slid a folder across new docs. Thicker. I dug deeper after your text. Turns out Uncle Ray wasn't the only skeleton. Remember that assault charge? Dropped because the Vic recanted. Paid off by. Guess who? Dread pooled. Caleb. Dad. He tapped a bank statement. He didn't just send me $20K. He's been wiring Ray hush money for years. Cover for the beatings.
The
other stuff. But here's the twist. Mom. His voice dropped. Conspiratorial. I confronted Ray last year. Made him talk. Recorded it all. He said you knew. About the Foster skip. Yeah, but also about Dad's side hustle. The fights? You balance the books for them. Off books. Complicit.
lies.
Or half-truths twisted. I'd signed ledgers Mark forged, blind to the blood sport funding. I didn't know the fights. Swear it. Swear. He stood, circling like a wolf. Like you swore innocence at the mill? I came back for the share.
Yeah. But now?
I want it all. House. Trust. The wire from Dad, before the feds freeze it. Blackmail. For my son. The slap echoed anew. You're like him. Teaming. Flipping truths. Better. He smirked. Mark's ghost in his grin. I serve my country. Got scars you can't ink over. You chose the cage. He pocketed the .22. Sign over power of attorney. Or Ray's tape hits the net. Abused boy's mom and on the fix. You'll be the villain again. Rage crested. Polarizing. Was this justice? Or just another betrayal? I saw the boy. The soldier. The monster. Mirrors of my own fractures. And if I do, we split. Fresh start. Family 2.0. The kitchen clock ticked, rain pattering like judgment. I signed, pen scratching like claws. The house, Mom's legacy, slipping away. But as he grinned triumph, I palmed my phone under the table, hitting send on the real ace, lose full dossier to Caleb CO. Anonymous. The psych eval. The assaults, enough for a dishonorable revisit, stripping his hero facade. He left at dawn, check in hand, promising talk soon. I watched taillights fade, then called the lawyer, contest the signing, fraud claim. Revenge wasn't destruction, it was reflection, forcing him to face his own buried crimes. The assaults he'd buried under war stress, the dealer side gig in Salt Lake feeding pills to vets like candy. Weeks blurred, court dates in Ada County. Headlines flipping from scandal to prodigal son's shakedown. Caleb fought dirty, texts pleading, then threatening, but the wire for Mark hit. $150,000 frozen pending investigation. Dad turned state's evidence, trading testimony for leniency, spilling on Ray's ring too. Uncle got cuffs in Pocatello, face like curdled milk on the news. The twist came in a Boise motel. Caleb cornered by MPs. His discharge revoked. Psych hold pending. He called from lockup. Voice breaking. Mom? What did you do? Told the truth, I said. Soft as sage. Like you wanted. But all of it. You ruined me.
Sobs. Raw.
I was gonna fix us. Fix starts with facing.
Click.
Ending? Debatable. He got help, VA rehab in Spokane. Letters trickling. Forgive me? I visit sometimes. Across plexiglass. Seeing the boy peek through. The house? Mine again. After the judge saw the coercion. Mark rots in county. Ray too.
Me?
I waitress still. But with a side hustle. True crime podcast. Buried lies of the gem state. Listeners argue in comments. Was I hero or enabler? Martyr or manipulator? Caleb texts on holidays. Miss you? Graham's rocker creaks without us. Happy? Tragic? Pull up a pew. In America, revenge is as gray as Idaho sky, no winners. Just survivors debating the score.